All right, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Perkins Public Library Trust for June 5th, 2025. Roll call, please.
All right, so we have Linda Barta,
Here.
Melissa Mills,
Here.
and Charlotte Perrick. And Brian Huckabee and Kevin Gordon are absent at the moment.
All right, item number 2, consideration and action on consent agenda. A, approve the minutes from the February 6, 2025 regular meeting. B, approval of the minutes from March 25th, 2025 special meeting. C, approval of the financial reports. And D, approval of blanket purchase orders for fiscal year 2026. Give you a second to look over those.
I guess I don't see where you got the figures on the where the 1,250 came from.
So do we need to remove an item so that we can discuss that?
I guess not, I presume.
We can.
Presume they know what they're doing.
That's all right.
I can't see anything there that adds up to $1,250.
So I think it's these two.
It's the two, yeah, the top and the bottom.
Insurance is 1,100, and the utilities are 150. Adding in this total column.
I have a motion to approve the minutes and financial report and the blanket purchase order.
I'll move that we approve them.
I second.
All right, got a first and second?
So I've got Charlotte, Melissa,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
and Brian.
We're just approving the
Minutes.
Yeah.
All right, number 3, discussion and possible action on items removed from the consent agenda. Nothing was removed. Item 4, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve the Perkins Public Library Trust operating budget for the fiscal year 2025-2026 in the amount of $21,866. That's currently what we have in our account as of right this moment. All right?
So what is it we're approving?
So this is the budget worksheet, which is the next to the last sheet in your packet.
Okay. So what does capital outlay? Is that the side of exterior finishing on the?
No, capital outlay is reserved, do you want to tell them?
No, please, you go ahead.
It's reserved for items that you would buy that generally have a value, like an asset or a larger purchase or something that you can tangibly feel, or books or whatever. And this is for the library trust. This is not the library budget.
Right.
So we can buy like a piece of furniture or something like that.
Yeah.
Do we plan to do that? Or like, why is that in our budget, I guess? Just in case?
Yes.
It's carried
It's carried over.
It's much easier to have something in a line than versus doing a budget amendment just to do something.
Right.
Supplies. Contract labor.
Is this money from the original $25,000 we started out with?
Well, we've had money come in and out. So I don't know if you've noticed, there's like all the different lines there going down. The 2023-24 and then the 24-25 budget. And so like the transfer out was our architect fee in 23-24. And then we've got some contract labor, et cetera, that we've taken care of through it, but not much has gone out.
And not much has come in.
Right, right. Most people are going through the Friends because of it being the 501c3.
Before we learned they were doing that, well,
Right.
we got some, I guess.
We do have occasional
Maybe
people
missed
that
that.
will make a deposit to the trust, but not, I mean, I haven't seen anything this year.
$477, I think.
Maybe Mr. Proud.
And the revenue line in the budget, they're figured based on, when we have to do the budget before the year's over.
Right.
So it's figured on, what's the word I'm looking, an estimate
Estimate.
through the end of the year. So after the auditor comes in, does the full audit of the city and all of the trusts, then those numbers will be updated to exactly what the auditor comes up with.
Gotcha.
But it'll be close.
So we have 9,500 approximately to spend on any kind of physical thing we wanted. About 9,500 for labor, insurance. That's about maintenance. Supplies. What kind of supplies? I guess we don't ever really.
Well, if we ended up needing potential, I don't know if that would count like,
Flyers or.
I don't know, or would it be like if we needed to host something for the community with the trust as we could use it then.
Where does that money come from?
So
We
that,
have 24 in our checking.
Budget and cash are separate animals.
But where do the budget dollars come from though? I mean, the city's not giving the trust money
I think
to,
it's just rolling over.
Yeah, it's
We started-
rolling over, and when the trust started, the city put in 24 or 5,000 initially, and then there's been some money come in and some money go out and some money come in. And it's all restricted, so it has to carry over.
We started out with Mr. Acuff's $25,000.
so really the budget doesn't mean a whole lot.
No.
I know.
no, but it,
The POs for the next year are about the only thing that matters, what we have in our account and what we know we have to spend to get through the next year. Because we're not in a hurry to spend any money on anything specific.
Well, the budget does matter legally, but we can amend the budget. So if we get an influx of money, and it depends on where people want,
What
they
line?
don't want the trust to have the money. If they want to have it where Friends has it, then it won't matter. If somebody wants to put money into the trust, then we can amend the budget to bring the revenue in, because we have to maintain a balanced budget. So you amend it to bring the revenue in, and then you have to show it in an expense line where it's gonna eventually go out. You can end up with a surplus, but not a deficit. And then you continue carrying that over year to year to year.
well, and that's what we did with the,
And money, and the other thing is money can be moved within this budget just with a signature from me. So a budget amendment can be done if for some reason you don't.
We needed more on labor and we didn't need about any.
Right, then we just do a budget amendment and move it.
All right, now, we don't have anything on here to do what this gentleman wants us to do.
Do what?
We don't have an item on here to do what Mr. Lovelace wants us to
I
do.
think we already approved it.
Yeah, we've approved the POs.
That
Consent
was
agenda.
part
Yes.
D on
Yes.
number 2.
So the utilities are a line item here. So OG&E, I would assume, would come out of that utility.
Okay, well, I guess I move to approve it.
All right, I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, then I've got Melissa
Yes.
and Charlotte,
Yes.
Linda.
Yes.
And Brian.
Yep.
All right, item number 5, consideration discussion regarding next steps of the new library renovations. Yesterday, I talked with Bob and I just asked if potentially he could come and kind of give us an update on where we're at with the bond. The city has our plans and we had, Brian and I with Bob and Jennifer met with the bond attorney and the financial advisors to look over what that looked like. And it was written, but now we're waiting, I understand, for the city to approve that. Is that correct, Bob?
Yeah, so this, it's city money, so the city has to do some agenda language to issue the bonds. Or actually, it'll be Perkins Industrial Development Authority that's gonna issue the bonds. We'll take care of that at the meeting on Tuesday with the expected closing on July 15th, which is when the money would be available. It's gonna be in the neighborhood of 500,000 like we saw. I don't have the exact number yet, and then we'll move on from there.
All right, and I understood that because of the percentage, we have to do that bond. We'll still have money coming in to use, it's just not gonna be in that bond. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. So the way they look at the municipal bonds is you're trying to get an investor that's in things to make money to buy the bond, and then they make money on interest. Well, when we originally started this process, I thought we would be able to do a loan like they did for Redbud, where they leveraged all of the sales tax to get Redbud. Something's changed since then. The financial advisor and legal counsel said when the investors look at it now, they take 80% of what the sales tax is expected to accrue over the period of the sales tax. That's the starting point, much like a down payment on a house. So they'll say, I'll give you 80%, that's where you start. Then we're required to pay the professional fees out of that, to pay the attorneys, financial advisor, and the professional services from that 80%, and that's where you end up with the $500,000 number, which won't be exactly 500,000, but it's gonna be in that ballpark. So that's the cash you get, because it's 80% minus the professional fees, and those documents were, I know,
It's minus the fees and interest, I guess, over that.
yeah, minus the
Yes,
fees and
and
interest.
Yeah.
And that ends up with the cash that they give you. Now, the other part of this that we cannot control is the bond market has slowed way down, and a lot of investors have pulled out of it because of politics and things going on in the world. We're waiving competitive bidding on this so we can get it done quickly, get it on the bond market, and then hopefully get an investor that comes in.
So this isn't something the banks loan us money on.
No. It has to be done a certain way. Well, even if the banks do it, they have to do it a certain way to comply with all the IRS stuff.
So this investor is a private investor, or it could be a
I have no idea.
company, it could be whatever?
You just don't know who's gonna buy the bond.
Okay.
They put it out on the market, and then people that do this, that have a lot of money to invest, go through and look, is this something I want to invest in? Am I going to make money on it? Is it stable or whatever? And then they decide whether or not they're going to do it or not.
And so this July 15th date is assuming that someone picks it up.
Correct. And if they don't, they haven't had one yet that nobody picked up, the financial advisor, but they have had two that only had one proposal, and it was like on the last day, the last minute. So,
Down to the wire.
but if they don't, then you just
Do it again.
do it again, wait till somebody thinks it's a better time. I don't know.
So that that one proposal might not be good. It
Right.
Maybe
It
something
may be- they may
ups the
propose-
value to 450 or.
Yeah, they may propose something that, the financial advisor or attorney advises
Against.
us against. We'll just have to,
And that cash that's already coming in, we had 70-some thousand, probably a little more by now.
And that's not included in-
70,000 in the account now.
That's already been taken into account for the 500.
Yeah, so it'd be
That-
500 plus
Plus
70.
that. Oh.
Plus 70, and then as we go on, we'll be making payments on the bond, but the payments will be lower.
So we'll have a little bit of cash
So
flow.
we still have cash coming in that we can use, it's just not,
The big chunk.
Yeah, it's not in the
And if
bond.
tax revenue goes up in the meantime, obviously, we put all this money in the kitty when we get enough to pay the note for that year. Anything over that
is there.
is there
And we also have $50,000 from T-Mobile that really needs to be spent, or they're gonna jerk it away.
I thought we were thinking about doing the exterior finishing with the T-Mobile. Did that change, I guess?
That's what it's written for.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know the legalities of that, if it can just be rolled into our lump sum.
I don't think so.
So I think it needs to be for citing, because that's what it was written for.
I'm a little unclear on the competitive bidding portion of this. I had a discussion with the attorney, and I asked another question, and then I had to come back over here via email, or come over here. But the Competitive Bidding Act says you bid things out competitively with advertisements and this and that and the other at $100,000 the threshold. It also says if you're doing a construction manager contract, that threshold becomes 50,000. If we're gonna proceed with us being the construction manager, my question is, we're not gonna have a construction manager contract, but we're kinda gonna be the construction manager. So do we need to competitively bid everything that we think is gonna be over 50? Or do we go stay with the 100? Either way, under 50, we get 3 quotes, and then
I guess it depends on whether we call ourselves a general contractor or a construction manager.
yeah, see,
Or the city of Perkins just doing their own project.
Which that was a question Brian asked at the meeting with the attorney. He said, is there a problem with us being the
Their own-
general contractor? And he said he did not feel like there was a problem.
So I think we'll be able to do the 100,000, but I just wanted to have that on your mind specifically.
Yeah.
I'll know tomorrow, but
Yeah, the 100's not a problem.
anything under 50 for sure, we get over 10,000, up to 50 or 100, whichever the attorney says, we need 3 quotes written for the,
For each trade, for each scope of work.
yes, framing or whatever. And then there'll be some things that need to happen. So the library trust wasn't formed. The trust indenture was not contemplated to take on debt. It's not a legal activity of the library trust. So we're gonna have Perkins Industrial Development Authority issue the bonds, because they can legally take on debt. which will mean Perkins Industrial Development Authority has to have a financial standing in the game for the library. So I believe what the attorney is, or I know what the attorney is recommending, the city commission terminate the lease with the library trust, enter into a lease with PIDA, and then we move on down the road and it's all legal.
And that was one of the questions we asked that day.
Yep.
That would have to happen.
And that should all happen Tuesday.
Okay, gotcha.
That dollar lease,
So the Perkins Industrial Development Authority is set up so that it can handle that bond amount. I mean, I think we would still be involved because Brian is still going to be the
Oh, yeah.
contractor. I mean, I think it just turning over the lease portion so that they can take that money
So
out.
legally, we can do it, yeah.
Right.
so we paid the city $1 to lease it.
I don't think you actually paid them anything.
I was gonna say, I don't know how that works.
That was what I was told, that we leased it to them.
The city leased it to us for $1.
Well, on a legal lease, you have to have, you're getting something and you're giving something.
Oh,
to make it
gotcha.
a legal document.
So-
So they'll put in there for $10 or
Gotcha.
in consideration for, you see that on land stuff all the time. It's meaningless. It's
Just a
Formality.
just,
formality to take care of the, okay, gotcha.
Well, and we talked about Friends possibly. Is that anything developed there that we can?
Yeah, Charlotte spoke with friends.
I think they have around 134 or something like that.
And that's a possibility to put in up front.
I think they're willing to help us get in that building any way they can. Isn't that correct, Charlotte?
They were talking about some more fundraisers, but I didn't know whether it was time for them or not.
Gotcha. They know that there's gonna be money later on coming in, and then we may not have the money up front, so I think they understood that that was the situation.
So we've got 500 on bond, we still have 50 grand T-Mobile. We have 70 plus cash sitting in that fund right now, is that right?
70?
I have
Yes.
70-something, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 620. If we tap Friends out, if they're nice enough to do that, we have 754 to play with.
Can we do it for that?
I think it'll be
Close.
close. I think doing it on our own, like I said, saves a chunk of money, and then we have a little more control, you know, over each scope. If there's little things, cabinets, I mean, you know, we still utilize the plans that we spent money on that are valuable, but we can, on each scope, we can say, well, crap, we need to save 10 grand.
Yeah.
We can change some countertop material here and there,
Right.
you know,
That's what it takes.
change some little things and plug ahead. So I've been working on it. I need to finish that here very soon. But, I mean, based on my last round of budgeting, we were, 900 range, and that had 200 grand worth of GC markup, fees, insurance, bonds. So, generally speaking, 754 should get it done.
And that's not taking into account any other money coming in either.
No. We're taking advantage of donated stuff like we talked about, because I know there are
Yeah.
local contractors will still put it out, get 3 bids, but one of those bids might be $0.
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I wanted to address something. I've been contacted 2 times directly and then a couple times indirectly about taking the part-time librarian salary, which is Linda's position, out of the library sales tax. And so when we passed the library sales tax, that was obviously not an intention to do. However, when we have numbers like we have, and the library director comes to me and says, I need help, and staff needs help because they're all going crazy and we can't do it. So I made the decision, and I recommended to the city commission that we take, it's actually in the budget as $12,500 for this fiscal year that we're in. It's gonna come out to be 10,000-ish. That'll come out of that to fund that part-time library position. And when I've talked to people about it, I've done some serious thinking, and while it may not be a popular decision, I believe it was the correct decision, and I stand behind it. I have to support her and her staff. And when sales tax started declining, which was, no, I didn't see that coming at all, because we've been going like this for 10 years. Sales tax started declining, but her activity is increasing, and the people using the library, I had to come up with that money from somewhere. I will say it is not my intention to take that 12,500 or 10,000, whatever it comes out to be, from that budget every year. It is in the budget for next fiscal year that was approved by the city commission, and I did put it in my budget report as something that I wanted people to be aware of. But as sales tax increases, which should happen, hopefully, then we'll be able to absorb that in the general fund eventually. But the other thing to recognize is that 12.5 coming off the top, so to speak, has no bearing on the bond, on the loan dollar amount. It was not factored in. So they look at, you passed a 1/4 cent sales tax on this date, and from this date to this date, you're gonna collect this much based on trends, and they can't project for growth. They have to be very conservative to keep investors interested. So, and then you take 80% of that minus the interest and the professional fees, and that's where you end up with.
I think my concern is just, it seems like a bit of a slippery slope to start using that money for salaries, so, I don't know.
But that was not the way it was presented.
That wasn't,
What I
yeah,
said at the meeting, and I've re-listened to it, is we're not gonna supplant funds, meaning we're not gonna take, if her budget's X, we're not gonna subtract 10, whatever number it is, take it out of the library sales tax. That's not gonna happen. That would be illegal. We're not gonna do that. But I stand behind the decision. I understand your concern, but there's no other way to do it. I mean, the choice is you don't get help, or we try to do something.
so, say what you said again, what would be illegal if you?
To supplant funds, to have a budget that her budget's this much, and then since we got this new tax passed, we cut her budget over here on the general fund sales tax, and then
Steal from the other, or to take from.
to rob Peter to pay Paul. Now, the sales tax was written in a manner that allows for operations to come out of that. Because the other thing we're also very concerned about as administration is utility costs and things like that at the new building may be higher than they are at this building. Maybe they're not, if it's insulated real well, I don't know. But I think anytime you get a bigger space and you're heating a lot of space in the air, I think it's a pretty possibility that it could increase. And the goal is, obviously, we're bringing in more businesses, and if we stay on that track, which I think we will, but people have pulled back on spending. It's just a fact. It's not political. It's just people aren't spending like they were, and things are more expensive, and everything's going up.
That's political.
Yeah.
And that is political, but it's not.
Not our
me
fault.
being
Yeah,
political.
exactly.
But we're having a lot more houses built too.
Yeah, they don't contribute sales tax.
Well, so we also have 24,000 in checking, we just approved 3614 in POs. That leaves us 21,301. And we don't have any more expenditures, I guess, till next year when we pay OG&E and the auditor
Yeah.
property insurance.
So we can use some of that money.
But if we don't lease the building anymore, do we get?
So who's gonna pay those fees? Does the
We
trust
will still
pay
have
those
it
fees?
on.
We'll
I
have
guess.
to figure that out, I don't know.
But I'm just saying, I mean, push comes to shove, we got 20 grand
Right.
sitting here that we can throw in and then beg for money from somebody next year to keep the lights on if we still have to pay these 3 bills. So,
Well, you mean at the new building? I mean, once she's there, that will go to her regular budget.
That'll go to the library
Because
budget.
this will be off of her regular budget.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just saying, if that isn't done in a year's time,
Right.
we'll be having the same meeting with these same
Yeah.
Right.
costs again, and we need $3,600, so.
Right.
So if you had that 21.3, that's 775.
That still puts us back up.
If all that math is right, and I'd say we can, I don't see any reason we couldn't pull a trigger and get this thing going and tell friends to keep fundraising, and maybe by the end of this thing, we've got a little extra cash. If we need to pay the last subcontractor and then buy some new shelves, maybe friends will still be able to.
Oh, I think they will.
And
well,
maybe,
if we can get the quotes on the EFS system or whatever's gonna be done on the outside, that's something that we could pull the trigger on. As long as the 50,000 plus the 70,000 or whatever, you know, July 1. We wouldn't necessarily wanna do it for purchase order and audit purposes in this fiscal year.
Want to wait
Just
until
be
July 1.
easier and to keep it cleaner. But we don't necessarily have to wait on that money
On the bond.
because we have it. I mean,
Right.
and
It's
we
in the
really-
account.
She's received a couple emails from T-Mobile, and we don't want to get one that says, give us our money back.
Right. So that really needs to be our
That
next
needs to be
step.
our next step, is
Yeah.
to get 3 quotes, I guess.
well, and our new plan has multiple trades included in that exterior finish.
Yeah.
It's a brick veneer and metal panel, and the back wall's paint, south wall's paint, so it's,
So the question is what goes first?
well, I'd say that north wall, we get it, so I'll start on that and see what, if 50 grand, how far we can get with that.
Get it. Yeah. Sounds like a plan.
Great.
All right, is there any other discussion regarding the steps of the new library renovations? All right, item 6, new business, don't believe we have any. Item 7, adjournment. Have a motion?
A motion to adjourn?
I'll second it.
Sorry, Ryan. Yeah, yes.
Charlotte,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
and Brian.
Yeah.
6:35.
Bob, is Charlie